everybody, this is Robin with Creative2xmom, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing for you what we used in 4th grade. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin and this is Creative2xmom. This channel is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and thriving in the day-to-day. And in today's video I'm just going to be going through some of the curriculum that we used in 4th grade, what we started out with, what we stuck with, did we like it, did we not like it, some of the pros and cons. Typically I share with you guys in the fall what we're using for that grade, but I don't always remember to come back and say, hey, yeah, we loved this, or we didn't so much love that. If I could do it again, I would do this. So I'm just going to go through what we've used, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, and would we ever repurchase. So let's start with 4th grade math. We used Sadler Oxford Math. This is a typical classroom math. Since we work through a charter school, we were able to get this from them, and it's the same company that we have used probably, I don't know if I would say since the beginning of my homeschool journey, but since very early on. We return to this one year after year. I find that it's really good, solid principles. It's not Common Core, so if that's important to you, you need to look into that. But this is just good, repetitious, over and over. It's a good way of instilling in the kids. There's lots of visuals. There's been ways that we've been able to adapt this classroom curriculum to work really well for us, and I love it. In fact, next year my daughter is phasing out of it because they don't have a high school series, and I'm actually really disappointed because I'm struggling to find something that is as solid as this. So I saw great strides this year. We did lots of fractions, lots of decimals, lots of multi-digit multiplication, and there is lots of good practice in here. In fact, a lot of times we have to cut down how many problems there are because there's so much practice in there that your child really gets the concepts. So that's really primarily our math focus, and let's talk about language arts. I don't have a physical copy of our main language arts curriculum because I did the download. We used The Good and the Beautiful Level 4. Now, I have never used The Good and the Beautiful before. We typically use Rod and Staff, which we like. My frustration with Rod and Staff is that in grade 4 it is solid King James Bible, and it goes from nothing to full-on archaic language, which can be an adjustment even for me as the teacher. So I was looking for something to bridge that gap until 5th grade, where they kind of do a 50-50. So we did the download from The Good and the Beautiful. What we got with that was the 2 course books and Creative Companion. And I've heard really good things about this curriculum. A lot of people will say it's advanced, do the placement test. We just, since we were doing the download, I thought, you know, I can always purchase another level if I have to, so we just went ahead and went for level 4. In the 2 course books, in each lesson you have some reading to your teacher, you have some vocabulary, you have a little bit of grammar. There's always 3, 4, sometimes 5 problems, not a whole lot, just a couple, and spelling. Now, we didn't use it for the grammar or the spelling, but we used it for the reading, the vocabulary. We also, every, I think, 20 lessons or so, there is a research essay that you'll do. You might do an essay on what you read, or right now my son is doing an essay on some animals that were in a book that he was reading about. For that aspect, I love the writing part of it. I love that it's an easy integration into the curriculum. You're not necessarily using a separate writing curriculum, which was perfect for us. I just kind of used it as a supplement since he is taking a writing course. I think if you were going to do it as your primary, it's probably not quite enough, but for us it was just enough that it was broke up little bits all along that set of 20 lessons. I did think the vocabulary was challenging. There's a section of, you know, challenging words that they read and learn every lesson. Felt the vocabulary was really good. I felt like the reading was good, but there wasn't enough check-in with the kids. I am used to a very structured program where they ask a lot of comprehension questions, and you could go a week, 2 weeks with no comprehension check at all, which kind of bothered me. And then even when there was comprehension questions, it would be like 2 at a time, and that would be it. And I don't read all of his stories with him, so it's nice to be able to go back and check and say, oh yeah, is he understanding this? Is he not understanding this? I do not feel that it warrants the, everybody says, oh, it's so challenging, it's such an advanced program. I would disagree. I think it's on grade level. If that, even a little bit, there are parts of it that I would say are not even on grade level. Some of the reading, I mean, it's okay. It's definitely, I don't know, it's kind of average in my book. I wasn't super impressed with it. I will say the one thing I was really impressed with was the creative companion piece, because that's sort of a separate booklet that you get with it as well, and it goes over geography, it goes over, if you're reading a story that's set in Brazil, you're going to have an artist from Brazil in the creative companion. You're going to, 4th grade is chalk pastels, so you're going to do a painting of animals, which is where we've come into jaguars. I really loved that piece of it. I felt like it covered the geography well, it covered the art study well, it had some good fun projects involved with it. That was a great piece to bring it all together. So that I loved. That is my struggle there, is I don't think we will use The Good and the Beautiful next year, but I'm not sure how I'm going to let go of that booklet. I really loved that part of his curriculum. So would I purchase it again? No. It was a good fill gap for us. It was a good interim year of having fun together, but I don't know that I would purchase the language arts. I have some science for us to try next year, and so I'm anxious to review that for you guys, but I was not, I don't know, maybe I just heard so much wonderful praise about it. I wasn't blown away with it like I thought I would be. Like I said, we don't use the spelling from The Good and Beautiful. We use Spectrum Spelling. This is something we've used for a few years. I can get it through my charter school. You can find this on Rainbow Resources. You can find it at Lakeshore. This is pretty widely available, and it's $12, and it covers pretty much the whole year for us. There's enough repetition here, enough fun exercises, enough ways of putting it into context that this worked just fine for us. For grammar, we did use Rod and Staff, but I have already sold that book. We used the 4th grade Rod and Staff. I feel like that is a very thorough grammar curriculum. There's a reading section every day, and then you can have anywhere from 10 to 20 different exercises. We do those oral sometimes if we're crunched for time. I don't mind them doing them oral with him, or sometimes we'll write them out. Sometimes they're sentences. I feel like that has really given him a great basis for moving on to next year. All right, let's talk science. I've got a few things here. We used Abeka, Understanding God's World. This is the 4th grade. I didn't even purchase the worksheets book. I think I had one that was half used, and so we used part of it, and then what we did for the rest of it is we just took the questions at the end of each section and we wrote those out. I really like this. When we first started the year, I thought that is a lot of reading for a 9-year-old, and as the year went on and his ability to focus a little bit more grew, I felt like it was a good amount. There's probably 4 or 5 pages of information, and then you get to little section quizzes. There is lots and lots of illustrations. Okay, that's not a good example. There's more illustrations as you go on. The focus in 4th grade is learning about birds as well, but I felt like this covered enough topics to be a good science curriculum for us. It covers things like insects, plants, of course, birds, matter, energy, geology, oceanography, which we did not get to, which I'm hoping to get to next year, and astronomy. So this is a good book to cover you for really the whole year. I don't feel the need to do distance learning at this age, so we just either create our questions out of the student text or use the review questions at the end of each section. So for nature study this year, we decided that we were going to go back and use the suggestion from Ambleside, and we were going to use the Burgess Bird Book for children. I know it's suggested for younger, but it's something that we never have read before, and I thought, okay, this is going to be fun. So along with that, we also purchased 50 Favorite Birds coloring book. This one is by Lisa Bonforte. You can find this under the Dover coloring books. I think that the Burgess book was probably one of my personal favorites from the year because it follows the story of Peter Rabbit, and as he's hopping through the old orchard, he is engaging and having conversations with all these different types of birds, learning about them, learning about their characteristics. And at first I was kind of like, is this going to be really dry? Are they just going to start listing off facts? But the writer has a great way of engaging you and wrapping it all into this story about the birds. Talk about their migration, and they don't just say, you know, when it turns cold we do this. It's like when the weather changes and I can feel the crispness in the air, the description. It just pulls you into this story to where you don't even realize quite that you're learning as much as you are. So the kids went through and they colored these. Sometimes they would take notes in the margins to talk about the different types of birds and where they lived, what kind of nests they created, did they mate for life, when did they migrate, were they winter birds. This was a really fun nature study, and it was just, the chapters were just short enough that we popped them into our morning time twice a week, and it didn't feel like it drug on. For geography this year, we returned to Evan Moore's Daily Geography. This was level 5. Again, it's just enough information. If you want to do this daily, it's 2 questions a day to go along with the map. There's a little bit of introduction from the teacher if you want to do that. Otherwise, I feel like this can be really independent. He was able to do this on his own. We broke it up so that we did it twice a week. So he would do Monday through Wednesday's questions on Monday, and then he would do Thursday, Friday, and sometimes the challenge on Thursday. So we broke it up that way. I don't like to break it up daily because then it feels like little bits, little bits, little bits. It feels choppy. So we would break it up and do half of it one day and half of it another day. If you were going to do this, even if you want to do it on all one bit, it would probably be 30 to 40 minutes. But that way it was like 15 minutes on Monday, 15 minutes on Thursday, done, learn it. My kids have such a better understanding of geography by just completing these simple questions a couple times a week. I've really been liking this one for a long time. And then we used Story of the World for our history, but I've already returned that to the charter. We did level 4 this year, which took us from late 1800s all the way up to, I think, 2001, just post 9/11, and we used the CDs with it. So at the end of that very last chapter, there was just one section where the author talks about why he didn't go post 9/11, and he talks about how history is still evaluating that time. We're too close to it to really understand all the ramifications of those decisions, and so it's too early to write a history book in that time period. We could say, yes, this happened, but we can't necessarily reflect on it, which I thought was an interesting note, and I really appreciated that that was included, because I wouldn't have thought about, yes, we can objectively see some of the things that have happened, but we can't necessarily evaluate how that's going to affect long term. We're too close to that time period. I loved volume 4 because it's so much of things that I have lived through. We had a lot of great, meaty discussions, and not only is it stuff that I've lived through, but I feel like it's stuff that is still impacting us today. And so we were able to take that history and really make it applicable to where we are at in history. And I felt like volume 4 really came alive for the kids. So yes, would we do it again? In fact, we are doing it again. I have already picked up the level 1 so I can start working on lesson plans for next year. We are heading back to ancient history next year. I feel like Story of the World is really our jam. We love it. One of the things that I really appreciated about volume 4 is that it takes out the coloring pages, which I know for some younger students is a little rough, and it gives an outline, and you fill out the outline, and then later on you actually write from the outline. Now for my 4th grader, that was a little tough. I feel like he was definitely on the bottom end. I don't know that I would necessarily start that until 5th grade, maybe even 6th grade. For my older student, it was perfect, spot on. But now that we have done it, I'm looking for ways to do that with the volume 1, taking those pictures out again, or at least breaking them up and doing more outlining and more written narration for next year, because I feel like now that he's gotten a taste of it, I think next year will go a lot better. This year required a lot of hand-holding on Mom's part. Not that that was necessarily a bad thing. It just was a little bit of a jump. Would I purchase the activity book? Absolutely. Definitely purchase the activity book. It gives you great ideas to use with the lessons. Would I repurchase the CDs? No. We were able to get them through our charter, and so for me to be able to save my voice on those lessons, and sometimes I would be doing dishes while the kids listened and I would listen. That was great. It was beneficial. For the money, no, I would just get the student text and we would sit down and read together. So I think that covers the main stuff that we went over this year. Of course, there was morning time stuff. We did some logic in our morning time, and we were always supplementing being in the kitchen and being in the garden. But for our curriculum, that's really what we covered this year, what we thought of it, where we would go back to next year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it inspired you and gave you some great ideas for your 4th grader. I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.